All right, everyone, thanks for tuning in for episode 5 of the InkPod podcast. This is another live podcast. We're in Long Beach 2024 Impressions Expo. We're here with a very special guest, the Stampinator himself, Stampman, a.k.a.
Jeff Fiorucci.
Boom.
The founder and creator of the Stampinator.
Awesome. Thanks for taking the time to meet with us, buddy.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Very excited. We've been pushing your product now, I think, for about a year in Canada, doing very, very well. Sean's a big fan of your product.
I haven't been pushing it. I've just been stamping it.
That's right? He's making money, right?
Helping you make money.
Helping me make money and helping you make money.
Hey, we all win here.
Yeah.
You've been a big ambassador of the product. You've had yours for how long now?
Almost what, 2 years now?
Yeah, 2 years.
And yeah, printed a lot of DTF and cured a lot of screen printed shirts with that.
Definitely.
Yeah. I mean, look, we had some problems along the way, had to make some changes and things like that. But, you know, out of all my customers that are running DTF transfers with you guys, and we have another customer up in Boston, I mean, how many transfers you guys do this year?
Over 100,000.
100,000, yeah. So we have a customer in Boston that since July, they're well over 100,000 as well. And look, they couldn't do it without the Stampinators running too for the price of what rotaries are and what's out there for 2 Stampinators and what you can achieve on a piece of equipment that is sitting in your shop idling. It's amazing. Really
No-brainer. So let's talk about a little bit yourself, your history, how you got into the game, what you currently going on, how Stampinator came about.
Yeah, so I can make it pretty brief and quick. I was 19, graduated school. Parents wanted me to hit college. It didn't work out. Summer kicked in. I tried it out. Volleyball. School wasn't for me. So my buddy and I were big mountain bike guys.
Yep.
And I ended up, I had a brand called Free Ride Fuckwear. So we went to Goodwill.
That's amazing.
Bought clothing, right? Chopped them off and printed the abbreviation Free Ride Fuckwear on there, right? It's making $600 to $800 a weekend at these mountain bike venues. What? The next thing you know, I'm out, I get a job, I work for a company, learn how to print, and I bullshit it my way in. I just watched the guy printing, and they're like, you know how to print? I'm like, yeah. And, you know, we had Google or YouTube back, well, Google, but no YouTube, and people like showing how to do it. So anyway, long story short, the artist, I decided I'm going to start my own business, and the artist there was helping me out, and the owner of the company called me into his office, and he said, today's your last day. He goes, is this your business card, MMP? I said, yeah, I'm going to start my own screen print company. He goes, well, you're not going to be working for me. So I left, went, maxed out my credit cards, $20,000, bought a manual press, built my own exposure unit, and I was off to the races. And, you know, it just kind of grew from there, one thing to another. And had a partner. We were growing. He didn't want to grow anymore. I left, went to another company. And I went in. They were doing about $1.5 million a year. I brought in Shopworks, took us to $2.5 million. And then we just kept growing and growing and growing from there. So at that point, we started doing work for the guy who owns the, where am I going? Under Armour. So we were doing work for Under Armour. We were doing backpacks, and we were doing transfers on backpacks. And you can only do so many transfers a day. So I developed the Stampinator to really help us with transfers. But back in 2014 and 15, nobody really cared less about transfers, right? So next thing you know, we're doing 5,000 backpacks. I created the Stampinator. And the first time we ran it, we did 480 units. It's pretty impressive.
Wow.
That's why it's a Stamp 480,
Stamp
right?
480. Kind of like WD-40 is water displacement. It took them 40 times to figure that out. So it was kind of always intrigued by that. Right?
I didn't know that about WD-40, and I did not know about that for the Stampinator 480.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
you're getting above those numbers, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, with 3 operators on the rock, we're 505 an hour.
Yeah, that's awesome.
You got to change the name.
505. I'm going to do it. Right? You know, the crazy part is, so after all that and created it, I was like, all right, I got a patent product. I'm going to sell this thing for $20,000, right? So I go to this little, like, I don't know, a promotional show in Baltimore. And I'm all set up. And people are like, $20,000. Like nobody really questioned the price, but they were intrigued by what it
was.
did and what we were doing with it, right? Because they're like, man, if you can speed that process up, I'm doing a heat transfer. I'm only doing 25 to 30 an hour, right? This is freaking amazing.
Crazy.
So from there, I went to Fort Worth, and that's how I got connected with Ryanette.
Yep.
And he saw the product and believed in it, but he brought it to my attention that, look, it's not transfers, it's matting of fibers and fibrillation of shirts.
Oh, I didn't
And
know
that's
that either.
And that's where it all started.
This is another shout out to Ryan Moore.
Yeah.
I feel like he's been mentioned in every single episode now. at some
Probably
point.
so. Hey, listen,
He's done so much for the industry.
yeah, and he's, I'll tell you what, if it wasn't for him, I definitely Stampinator wouldn't be where it is today. When you have somebody who believes in a product and sees and appreciates what it can do and how it can change the industry, that's big.
Yeah.
It's funny because I chatted with him. I think it was Printing United, and I was in I believe it was Supercolor was there in a rock booth.
Yeah.
And I was chatting with Ryan, and we are just kind of getting caught up. I've known Ryan for quite a while now. And basically, he's like, "Are you selling these?" And I'm like, "No, I wish I could." At that time, we were very exclusive with M&R.
Yeah.
I said, "It's a great product. I follow it, and I love it, but I can't put it on an M&R press." He's like, "They're amazing on an M&R press. What are you talking about?"
Right.
I'm like, "Really?" He's like, "Yeah." So I said, "Okay, I think I want to sell these." And he pulled you over, swap business cards, and the rest was history.
Yeah, and that's what I love about the guy. He is, it's not about, I feel like it's not all about him. He's out to really help people who have something good.
Yep.
That, if it's going to benefit him and Rock and Anatol or M&R, it doesn't matter. It's just get the name out there in the brand, and it has become a brand. Like Stampinator, the first time when Ryan came over, he goes, we were in Fort Worth, and he's like, "Man, you got all these people around your booth." He goes, "I like the product, but I'm not so sure I like the name." And now the name is just, it's like everybody loves the name. I have people all over that come over, and they're just like, "Man, your product has freaking changed my life." Like, it
has.
Yeah, it's
it has.
amazing.
Yeah.
To the point.
Sorry, I just want to say on the name, like on our shop,
Yeah.
the Rock for You, we call it the Stampy now.
The Stampy.
Oh, are you going to run this on the Stampy?
Yeah.
It's like, it's a trademark in the
Yeah.
business. Like we go, just run that on the Stampy because it's going to be so much quicker.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I mean, look, you've been running it for 2 years. I mean, overall, like, your true thoughts on the Stampinator.
Well, for us, it's not just this, like the Stampinator itself of like how good it is for screen printing, for DTF, but it's always there. It's redundancy, right?
Yeah.
For the staff, but it makes their job a lot more enjoyable too.
Yeah.
So having to use, like, for example, we have 4 Stahls Hottronics dual air fusion at the shop, and it's not that they don't like it. It's just more stressful to work on that machine.
Sure.
Compared to the Stampinator, because you have the Rock with the laser with everything. You know where to place your transfers.
Yep.
It makes their life easier, and it runs a lot quicker. So motivationally wise in the shop, when you see a large stack of shirts and you know it's going on the Stampy, it's like, "Hey, come and help me do the Stampy, or it's going to take an hour. We're going to be done front and back, 350 shirts."
Yeah.
So I feel like it's not just helping us be more profitable, but it's actually helping us, like, enjoying life in the shop for a staff is a lot better with having that.
Yeah, look, and here's what I tell everyone. When it comes to the Stampinator and you're working together on an automatic press, people like to work together and have a conversation.
Yep.
And I'm not opposed to that. If it makes you a better worker, I'm open to it. But when you have 5 or 6 people working in a heat press room, there's going to be less downtime on performance and production because we're having a conversation, we stop. Whereas the automatic, it's still rotating.
It's always rotating.
It's always rotating. And it gives you the joy of producing and having that conversation.
They love because we have a lot of one-offs and a lot of shirts coming into the shop. So when they can see a stack of shirts just get done and go to QC,
Yeah.
they love that feeling.
Yeah.
Totally.
Right? Because we get bonuses on the volume of we're able to output during the day and all
Sure.
that. So they love using it. So as soon as there's more than 24 shirts, it's going on a Stampinator.
Yeah.
So they
That's fantastic.
they almost run together. "Hey, come to help me do these 3 carts." It's fun to see in the shop. And plus, like, you don't even realize it, but when we're using it for screen printing, like we have one on our screen printing press, massing on the fibers, your prints are so much better. It actually can cure your shirts.
Yep.
So we can do, like, if we run front and back, they're not going through the oven because I don't need to call a picker at the end of the oven.
Yeah.
Totally,
I just
yeah.
stack them on a cart,
Yep.
and then they flip them over and start doing that.
Yeah, we
So-
do the same thing.
I mean, it's even shaped the way that I would normally sell a press or a package to someone. Let's say someone's got a 10 color, generally I'd say, hey, listen, let's go with 2 flashes, right? Now I say, hey, why don't we put 1 Stampinator and 1 flash? So we generally advise the customer, print the white, put the Stampinator underneath it, so you mat down those fibers. And it's great for people who, A, don't have the space or the budget for a larger press. It's allowing you to replace, a flash and, let's say, a heated roller or a smoothing screen with a roller, and basically utilize the press to its full capabilities, free up some screens that you guys can run some more colors on.
Yeah, absolutely. So look, here's where I'm at, and what I'm not trying to push companies back and not make money in developing products, but one thing, as a screen printer for 30 years in the industry, most screen printers can't afford AC, right? To put in their back shop. You have a big warehouse, 20,000, 30,000 square feet. You can't outfit that with AC, right?
Unless
and
you're us and
Yeah, Mr. John.
unless you have that, right? But when you have 3 or 4 dryers, it overtakes it. So look, if we can create something that we can have 15 presses in a Stampinator curing on press and not running through the dryer, I think that would be fantastic, right?
I mean, I saw a good video that you posted at one point. It was one of your clients. I don't know exactly who they were. And that actually showed me that it was doing the final cure, and it totally makes sense. I mean, if you're a one-man shop, loader and unloader, I mean, you don't want to, and especially if you're doing a front and back print, but even taking that aside, you don't want to have to put it through a dryer. And then imagine if you are by yourself, have to stop the press constantly, go back there, pull them out, sort them back in by sizes, smoothing everything out. So I think that ability to be able to load a shirt, stamp it, and stack it yourself is huge depending on the size of your shop.
Yeah, look, we have a customer, Mike, they're a NASCAR shop, Swell Inc., and he's always pushing the limits with the Stampinator, and he's like, that's what I love about, watching your videos and what you're doing. It's allowing me to push myself. So like, just one thing, like, I'll give you a scenario. Each week we do about 3,000 sleeve prints. We print the sleeves and we stamp cure them with the Stampinator. They're anywhere from 1 to 5 colors. We stack them on the cart. They never go through the dryer. And then we go over, we print the left chest. We cure the left chest. We don't even send it to the dryer. The only time we send it through the dryer is when we print the back. We know we're going to have a full cure if we miss something, right?
Sure.
It goes through, it's done. And we touch that shirt less than, like, really, most people are touching it 6 or 7 times. And I have one operator printing 500 sleeves an hour and stamping. And the best part about it, what I love, is neck labels. We'll screen print our neck labels and we'll stamp it right at the end. Again, it's not going through the dryer.
Yeah.
Efficiency in this business it's a must. It's important because we can't find help to help us do it, right? So how can we be more efficient with less people and be able to take care of them and give them more money per hour?
I mean, speaking on efficiency, I don't think it's ever been your pitch that if you have the labor, you have the budget, and you have the space, it's not, and you're running big runs, you're not going to say the Stampinator is going to do a better job than, a Sprint 3000. That's never been your pitch, right?
No, absolutely.
Yeah,
right.
Of course.
But look, here's what it comes down to. The Stampinator, it's not for every shop, right? For me, when I look at Stampinator and I look at companies that are printing high-end, they're printing retail, resort, or just a shop that wants to be good and feel good about what they do, like Stampinator is an absolute fit. Look, I've been in the shops that I went into a shop to sell them a Stampinator, and the guy's like, hey, you want to put a pair of boots on before you go back there? And I'm like, what do you mean put a pair of boots on? There was ink everywhere, and I'm like, how do you print a t-shirt and get it out the door without having ink all over it? Like, you literally couldn't touch the press.
That's crazy.
It was a mess, and we're spending a lot of money on the equipment. But I will tell you, over the years, I think shops have become a lot cleaner when you look at the guys from the shirt show and Andy, his place.
Avid Apparel, where we're doing,
immaculate, right?
Avid, where we're doing the class, he literally has, I don't know if it says, I don't know what the smaller term is. It's like a Zamboni, but a smaller size.
We have that in our shop too.
He's bringing that thing out every single night, and he's cleaning the floor. Like, I would feel comfortable dropping the sandwich, picking it up, and putting it in my mouth. Whereas I've been in some shops, kid you not, wearing a lightweight shoe, like a Cole Haan knitted, something like that.
Yeah.
And I'm stepping in there, and my shoe has come off my foot because the amount of dry web adhesive and God knows what else is on the floor.
But what it does, a clean shop, your employees are happy, right?
Sure.
I want to work for somebody who's clean and organized. I don't want to work for a shop who's just messy and just disorganized, right?
And I think, that's a good point. And I think that once you've established those bad habits and you have a messy shop, like if you have a clean shop, an employee drops some ink on the ground,
Yeah.
and it's
gonna clean
clean, he's gonna be like, shit, I gotta clean this
Absolutely.
up. You know, whereas if it's already a disaster, good luck.
Yeah, we're going to leave it and let the next person step in it.
Totally, right? And that's why when shops are getting into screen printing for the first time, whether they're doing any other types of decorations or it's just a new venture for them in general,
Yeah.
I tell them you really need to dial in your practices now, because they're very hard to get your employees who are doing something the wrong
Fix it
way for a
after,
long
yeah.
time to change. And it's a big mess.
Well, ideally in that position, you need to fire everyone because
Yep.
that's the only way it's going to work for you.
And,
You know?
and this is another thing that not only applies to screen printing, but also embroidery or whatever, I mean, DTG. Customers come to me all the time and they say, hey, Zach, I want to get into embroidery. I'm really having a hard time finding an embroidery operator or a screen print operator
Sure.
or whatever the case is. And one thing that I always push is stop doing that. Find someone that's going to show up on time, they're going to care, they're going to be motivated, they fit into your company culture. Let us come in here and train them properly. Yeah, they might, not be able to load as quick,
Absolutely.
but they're going to learn to do things the right way. You have screen printers or embroiderers that come in from other shops, and all of a sudden they want to do it their way because they've been doing that for 25 years, but it doesn't mean it's right.
You're right. And the issue is this. Most people who are shop owners, they're small. They're desperate for help, so they're going to hire anyone and put them in that position. They're not even going to train them, right? It's
Yeah.
just like, hey, go here and cut shirts. Well, how do I cut shirts? For me, in our shop, we always start people off to catch shirts. Because if they can't catch and stack, they're not going to work out anywhere else in your company,
No.
right?
That's for sure.
And we've seen a lot of them that just can't do it. It's weird and bizarre to me.
Yeah, as crazy as it sounds.
Right?
Shirts falling on the ground.
I'm like, it's like, hey, like I had one guy literally who's panicking, like, I can't do this anymore.
Stop! They keep coming. Yeah, that's the idea. That's how I pay you.
And I'm
If
like-
shirts stop coming out of the back of the dryer, then you start to
Yeah.
panic, right?
But Zach, we can't have the machine that just stacks the shirt at the end. 'Cause
No.
How are you going to evaluate your staff now?
Exactly.
You can't.
No, exactly. Oh,
But yeah, look, and again, I just one thing going back to the Stampinator, what I love about even going out to shops is helping them out when I see issues, whether it's an art separation or the using the wrong mesh. Like all my knowledge, I want to help them. So when you buy a Stampinator, out of the 500 customers that we have that I've met, 300 of them I probably talk to often, and not about business. Just we become friends.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
And we see that. To me, honestly, it's super annoying because I've been trying to talk to you at least 4 or 5 times today.
Yeah, I
and there's a
apologize for
lineup.
that.
It got to the point where you were talking to someone and someone else is in line, literally a lineup, and I'm like, I'm sorry to interject. I don't mean to be rude. I really needed to talk to Jeff and make sure that we could bang out this podcast quickly at
Right.
5 p.m.
Hey, look, when you're somewhat of a celebrity in the screen print world,
Hey, you are, man.
It's tough,
Yeah.
and I say that in fun, right?
Uh-huh.
Because one thing I will
Sure.
tell you, when you have somebody who comes up and gives you a hug and says, "Man, your product really changed how we do," and really appreciate it,
Yep.
it makes you feel good,
Yep.
because
Yep.
it's not just a product that an engineer or developer designed to try to get out there to make money for the company. It's something that legitimately works,
Yep. Yep.
and it makes a difference.
Yeah. So it's actually interesting because I didn't know some of the history behind the Stampinator. I didn't know that you originally designed it for heat transfers.
Yeah.
Then it went to screen printing. With the introduction of DTF, which is a massively common theme here pretty much everywhere you go.
COVID created it,
Yep,
right? All of a
100%.
sudden,
Yep,
boom,
yep.
DTF was out of nowhere.
So for us at RB Digital, we've been importing machines for the last 3 years. It's been a struggle, obviously, dealing with China. We have multiple episodes that cover that. And it's an issue that all the early adopters of the technology had to struggle with.
Yeah.
So now there's a lot of players in the space, big reputable brands, household names that are coming with solutions
Yeah.
that really do a good job in the printing. So that's something now that we don't need to worry about as much. So once we have that locked in, it's like, okay, step 2, how do we find a solution that can finish the transfers quicker?
Yeah.
And that's where I said, hey, I think there's a huge opportunity here. And now all of a sudden, I'm sure there's a lot of sales that you're doing. I mean, to give you an idea, we have one client, excellent client of mine for a very long time, huge shop. And actually, you went out to visit them. We're talking about Hotline in Canada. And they bought the M&R Copperhead Flex Plus with the intention of never running Plastisol through the machine. They literally bought it to pair with the Stampinator to have a high-speed transfer press in-house. I mean, it's simple math. You see those dual air fusions, or we have our own line as well of dual presses. On a good day, maybe if someone's really pushing 80 units an hour, we see a lot of people around 60, right?
Yeah.
And like you're talking, there's no pace there, right? So you're kind of working at your own leisure. Where if you have 2 or 3 people on a press, not everyone's going to dick around at the same time, right? As long as one person's hustling, they're going to be like, yo, guys, what are you doing? What's going on here?
One person's moving, speed's continuous.
Exactly.
Right.
And that's one of the advantages I see, because even we have 4-station rotary presses that we sell. They're like, well, why don't I just get 2 duals?
Yeah.
A, you're gonna get more output, but B, there's that teamwork aspect that I think comes together to help push more numbers, and it's fun. You're not isolated by yourself with AirPods. You're sitting there chatting with hopefully someone that's a friend of yours, and can enjoy some quality time together.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
Look, it's I got to tell you, there's not one product on the market that can do DTF transfers as fast as Stampinator. The manual Stampinator. And I can't even talk because we're talking all weekend, right? We'll cut that out.
There's no cutting out. This is all raw.
I'm in there. I'm running. I probably could have done 400 transfers an hour on the manual stamp press with the manual Stampinator. Like, that's impressive. Like,
That's really impressive.
You said you actually clocked 360.
360. Yeah. Ryan was over there. He timed it 360 an hour. It's pretty impressive, right? An automated machine isn't even doing 360 an hour.
No, and that was one operator.
That was one operator.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we had a tray, you're loading, because you have 6 seconds, you're unloading, it's simple.
Yeah.
And you're not stressed, you're not overwhelmed, right? I don't expect everyone to do that, but I'm just showing what the capabilities are with it. Right?
And, I mean, look, it's like, you have presses that can, we were at the Copperhead Flex Mini, and he was showing that you can do 2,200 units per hour, right? It's hard to find someone to do that, and if they can do that, to do it for an extended period of time is almost impossible. But at least you know that the machine is capable of doing it, and you just need to find the right operator that can really push those numbers.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, it's when I go into shops, I ask everyone, what do you print per hour? 300 to 500, right? No, these machines, you can run 1,000 shirts an hour. I've tried it. I mean, you last 20 minutes. The only way you can do it is if you have 3 people up there and you're all switching out, right? Because then you lose focus on the print, right? It's just, but at the end of the day, we want quality, right? So it's kind of like your sales thing, do you want it fast? Do you want it cheap? What do you want?
Good, fast, and cheap.
Good, fast, and cheap. Which one do you want, right?
Exactly.
And where I see a huge opportunity, at least from what I've seen, the introduction of DTF in the market now makes a manual press a much harder sell. You have a 72-piece 3-color job that you're printing manually, you run the numbers. It's even if you're not paying yourself, which you should be, even if you're an owner, you got to figure out that. It just doesn't make sense financially to not order transfers. So I've seen a massive reduction in manual presses, but there's still a ton of manual presses in the market, and I think that this product specifically will revitalize those, because those guys are bringing in transfers, and now it's an inexpensive way, instead of buying an automatic or a $20,000 or $40,000 or $60,000 heat press. Right? You got it there. It's taking space, collecting dust. Let's get that thing started making money again. And I think the Stampinator, the manual, what is it called? Is it Stampinator 360?
Stampinator
M
for the manual.
How about Mampinator?
Mampinator.
Cool. Yeah, so I mean, we're excited about that product. When can we expect? I mean, we had a good customer of ours, Pink Grasshopper, actually, who basically when I first brought it, he's like, you got to convince him to bring in a manual, and I forwarded it to you, and I'm sure you had heard that already multiple times. I don't think either of us could take credit for that, but it was really nice to see that. And the second that you posted it on Instagram, he's like, yo, it happened. I want to put my name down. When can we actually see these machines hit the market?
So it looks like we're going to have everything, shooting for April, but I think March is going to be pretty realistic.
When they're ready to roll out?
Yep.
Okay.
So right now we have people that are already putting deposits down, placing the orders, and but you know what? Everyone's not complaining. They're fine with it. They're like, dude, this hasn't been out. We can wait a couple of months.
Sure.
Because it's going to be a game changer when we get it.
Yeah.
Right. But what I loved is just what you said. Like, I'm going to pull out 2. I'm buying 2. I'm bringing these 2 manual Riley Hopkins that I have that we haven't used, and we're just going to do heat press all day with them.
You know what we're going to see after this podcast? All the
Everybody's going to go to their
Digismith,
sheds and clean
Facebook
off their
Marketplace.
presses.
No, all those listings that people are trying to get rid of presses for like
They're gonna be all
$200.
They're gonna be all
I'm going to start buying them back and reselling them to my customers because I think there's going to be a big opportunity there, right? So
Yeah.
So let's talk about something different. I mean, we get the manual press, and obviously, again, great solution for a small shop. I know we covered this in a video, but I don't think we talked about it here.
Yeah.
Small shop doesn't have the budget, the power restriction, or the space to be able to have both a flash and a dryer. This is an inexpensive way for someone to get into manual screen printing, right?
Yeah.
That has lots of options for matting down the fibers, doing the stamp, obviously, with transfers, and also final cure if you're screen printing, right?
Yeah, I mean, look, the footprint on that between a manual and with the manual Stampinator, I mean, you're looking less than 6 feet.
Yeah.
Right. You put in a little dryer like any of the small conveyors. You got to run your shirts through 2 or 3 times,
Yeah.
right, to get the cure. So you're just doing triple the work, right? And then you're down there catching them. So you want to print 100 shirts. It's going to take you all day to do that. Now, what's great about the stamp is you can print. You can have a cart where you're loading, cart unloading, and folding in dozens and going right into a box,
Yeah.
right out to the customer.
Yeah. Before we jump off to another topic around the Stampinator, do we have a finalized MSRP for that?
Yeah, it's going to be $6,500 for the stamp.
US, okay.
Yep.
Just thinking outside the box here, is there any way to put that onto an auto as well, or is it only good for a manual?
So it's actually going to work on an auto as well. We'll have that in July.
Okay.
So you can either remove your head, or if you have like an M&R,
Space.
you got to flip your head up, but you got to remove all the guts underneath to give it room, right?
Is it going to talk to the press at all, or are you going to have to use a foot pedal? Because
It's not going to talk. It's not going to have a foot pedal. It's all going to have a sensor, and
Okay.
basically you're going to set your dwell time on your press. So let's say M&R, we can't get the coating for it. You want it to stamp for 5 seconds. Set your M&R press for 7 seconds.
Got it.
Right. So I think it's going to work out really well, and it's going to be something where we're going to have to mount into the ground. And I built a couple of things that were similar to what I have, just on the rock press, just to see if the clutch is going to kick in if it
Okay.
were to get locked in place.
Got it.
But look, it's going to help M&R, right?
Of course,
M&R
yeah.
should jump on my team and help me out and get this, right?
Sure.
Rock has done it. They've been awesome. It's been great working with them.
Definitely, definitely. So basically, it's an extra $750 USD.
Yep.
Yeah. And that's a decision shops will have to make. Do I want to have that flexibility to pull it off and put it on a manual, right? So I think
Yeah.
there's some thinking behind that, but the price difference isn't that substantial.
No, not at all.
Where if they want to have that ability to move it around the shop, then to make that additional investment.
Yeah, so I have the same Stampinator that we have now. We've made some changes to it, so it'll give you a lot more pressure and a lot more support, and that's going to be something that we'll have in July as well. So I've been working on that one now for about 6 months, so it's ready to go.
Cool.
But the problem is, you can't put too much pressure on some of these presses because they can't take it and
Yeah.
handle it, right?
Yeah.
The arm
Yeah.
flexes.
Yeah. So we kind of came up with a solution to fix that problem.
And like when you guys are saying it's not for every shop, I'm trying to get in my head, like, why wouldn't it be for every shop when, in my mind, like for us, it's helped us tremendously being able to have a better print, just screen printing, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
Be more profitable with our DTF. And now, especially with DTF coming in the market with the soft hand feel, if your plastisol is thick to somewhat extent,
Sure.
your client is going to whine.
Yeah.
Yeah, look,
the bar's
so-
raising.
The bar is raising
Yeah,
because of
fast.
DTF, so people want a really smooth print. So I'm trying to fit, like, in my mind, like, why wouldn't a shop owner buy this, even if he has the space, even if he
Yeah.
has the oven?
I'll tell you why.
Why?
Well,
It's
here-
the common thing you hear from screen printers all the
That's
time.
what I wanna
I've been
know.
screen printing for 30 years before you were born.
I get it. But if he wants to keep like screen printing for another 30, he's going to have to adjust to the market that's changing.
So
right?
here's what happened. So I had the conversation with someone a couple of weeks ago, and they're like, well, my employee, she's not really into the Stampinator. And I said, okay. I said, but you have 3 of them, and you're not running one on one of the presses. Well, she's not into it. I said, who owns the company, her or you?
Yeah.
Right? Like, so that's, but people don't want to deal with.
Why does she
Yeah,
like
what's the
it?
reasoning behind it?
I don't get it.
Just because?
Just because.
Just because, right?
Just because.
Yeah, I get a lot of just because.
So maybe she wants to make really nice prints without having to do that. So maybe she's like, oh, I'm really good. Look at my prints. They're almost as good as that one. But
Look, there's always going to be an
that
employee. There's going to be somebody who pushes back. And for me, within my company, I'll tell you how you run a good company with production, any company, right? One, my salespeople and my production people, we couldn't have a business without the salespeople, and we couldn't have a business without the production.
Yeah.
100%.
I'd tell my salespeople, instead of going out and they're barking orders at people, right, or complaining why a job's not done, how about on Friday, go spend $150 and buy them lunch and show them that you appreciate what they're doing.
Totally.
Right? So that was the culture that we built, and it changed and it worked because we were a company that worked together. A lot of these companies, they're all segregated, right? Oh, it's the art department. They're in their own world, right? Sales is in their own world, right? And production.
Little cliques in one company, right?
We're a creative company. We need everyone working together to be more creative and to make better prints.
Sure.
Right? We're not a company making nuts and bolts where you punch it into a computer.
Yeah.
This is manually done for the most part, right? Important to work together.
Sure. I mean, that's something that I've always admired that Sean does in his company. He's got a couple programs going. I mean, you could touch on them, like the gym program and the
You got a full
the
gym
wasted
in there?
product.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Nice.
yeah. Listen to what he offers them.
Gym.
The amount of resumes you're gonna get by the time this podcast releases.
I might come just work for you.
Forget it.
Anytime.
Yep, done.
Right?
So I mean, just touch on it because I think when you told me about some of these programs that you run, and I go into your shop and I see people are excited to be there. They're hustling. No one's slacking. You know, it's the reason why is because he's built such a strong company culture, right?
It's not always easy. Like it's not always roses, right? It's hard, and you have to adapt and change things, and people don't like change, right? It's normal.
Yeah.
They like their routine, they like their stuff, but we try to implement a lot of stuff to where it's motivating for them and it's motivating for us. And the big key was like, what do we do every single day to keep working those 14 hours? So I work out every day. I take ice baths, sauna. I do electrolytes. I eat really healthy food.
Yeah.
I'm always there. I'm showing up for the team. I'm a team player. That's our mentality. That's our goals. That's our values. So we decided to implement those into like company culture, and then you get bonuses at the end of the month if you do join them. So if you work out at least 3 times a week, you get a $90 bonus at the end of the month. If you're there every single day.
That's great. You're paying somebody to build their fitness.
A gym
right?
membership, like a CrossFit gym membership, if you go 3 times a week, it's $90.
Yeah.
So we were like, well, we're going to pay you if you do
A month?
Yeah. A month.
Oh, it's cheap out there. Toronto's insane.
No, 3 times a week.
Yeah,
so if it's,
you're
it's
150.
full time,
You're
it's
probably
150.
150.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
It's 150.
So if it's 3 times a week, that's what it is.
I mean,
so
Toronto,
I
some of these CrossFit things are like $600 a month.
We'll see. It would be more expensive for us in
But
Toronto.
so-
We're lucky we're in.
Yeah,
Vancouver,
yeah,
right?
definitely.
And you know what? That's awesome that you do that because when you look at it today, like, you know, look, people are changing in how they do things and how they do business.
Yeah.
But there is that, you know, I don't want to say the dinosaur
Sure.
It
sector.
is. Well,
but
that's fine. That's what it is.
You have that, and they
Yeah.
won't change, right? They're going to stay the way they are, and that's how they're going to run.
And I
And
tell
you
them
know
all
what?
the time.
I'm going to tell you, there was a guy that my building, he had a porn business. He sold
Okay.
all porn magazines and videos, right? This is a good story. The son kept saying, Dad, we need to go online, right?
Yeah.
We need to stop selling CDs and videos.
Yeah.
And they were like a multi-million-dollar company.
Wow.
They got ran out. They closed their doors because the dad
go
would
online.
not change to go online.
It's the whole
right?
Blockbuster story, right?
The whole exactly.
I use this
Exactly.
phrase a lot when I talk to customers about DTF or new technologies. Adapt or die.
Yeah, exactly.
This industry is moving so fast
Yep.
that if you're not on the cusp of new technology, you will.
You're going to
die.
get lost.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Yeah, you'll have to drop your prices to try and scramble and claw any business that you possibly can.
Yep.
You'll pump a lot of volume. You won't make any money.
Yeah,
you know?
absolutely.
Listen to this other program that he has for wasted product. This I thought was genius.
So wasted products. There's a bonus at the end of the month that we give on wasted products. So every time there's a waste, it drops down from the bonus. So there's $8,000 right on the board
And how did you get that number? That was based on statistically the year before, where you factored in how much wasted product you had.
Yeah.
every month. So every time there's a waste, it drops down. But if there's a waste at the end of the month, there's still money there, and there's no mistake, it's doubled.
Yeah.
So they can split $16,000
Nice.
together. So
That's great.
it's a possibility. We've never paid $16,000 because there's always been something, but the goal is to actually pay. I'd rather much pay them and they're all stoked and happy,
Yeah.
than to lose money every single time.
It's like the bad beat in poker. I used to be a big poker player. You know, I don't know if you know how the bad beat works, but essentially if you get a bad hand and you qualify for the bad beat, basically like every single hand, like $1 is kind of paid out to this pool.
Yeah.
And it can get up there. Like some of these underground places are like $40,000-$50,000. And eventually they might pay it out. But again, you've made your money back on it tenfold, right? So
that's not bad. So how do you work that out when you have one employee who is like the cancer in the company and doesn't want to change?
That's what happens with the company culture. It's like it's not us that sees that, and the whole team actually sees it. So the person doesn't feel comfortable in the company,
and they end up leaving.
And that came from the book Traction. So if you're a business owner, you want to scale your team. I read the book Traction.
Yeah,
it's helped me tremendously. Scale the business with the team and the values in the core, and hire on that, fire on that. Everything is evaluated on that. So for us, we built our core values as being healthy, being there on time, leadership, team building. So you have to be there for your team. That's for us the definition of team, and supporting your team is being there every single day. If you're not going to be there because you have a dentist appointment tomorrow, then at least let somebody know so they can take care of that job to make sure that you're out.
And I agree with you, because that's the world we live in, right? Like you have both parents work, right?
Yep.
And nobody's home with the kids. The kids get sick. Somebody's got to leave work. You have to be open to that, right?
Exactly.
It's going to happen, right? Whereas companies are like, hey, if you leave, you're fired, right?
No, they can always leave as long as the team is notified and somebody else can take care.
Somebody fills in to fill that spot. Sure. Perfect.
So it's communication, it's team building. And
I mean, one thing that I've heard you say is we hire fast and we fire faster. Which
we
sounds
hire slow,
fire fast.
fast.
Fire fast. There you go.
Yeah.
Tongue twister.
And the
long
reason,
day, same as you.
The reason why, the reason why is pretty much they go on their own, right?
Yeah.
And, every month we have like an evaluation. They do it on their own.
Self-evaluation.
Yeah, self-evaluation. And we look at it together, and it's all based on our values and our core in the company. And if the performance, because we do have data as well that's pumped in from the program that we run, and if his data is low, then we ask him a question like, hey, why is the data low? We pretty much know why, because there's a camera everywhere in the shop, and like we speak with everybody on the shop. Oh, well, he's going and smoking. He's not having a good time at home. All right, well, should he bring that into work? No. So we go and ask a question like, hey, what's happening? Can we help you with something? Oh, no, my data's down because I don't know, my machine wasn't going well. Oh, well, do you want me to call RB so they can come and fix it? Do you need more tech support? So we're always there to support them, but we know the real problem. I'm not going to tell you, hey, you're a jerk. You're not doing your job, right? So after like 2-3 months, that does the same thing. He's just not feeling it. He's like, hey, you know what? I don't want to work here anymore. I just don't feel good. I'm like, hey, if I can help you with something, I know it's probably not going well at home.
Sure.
If we can help you, then let us know. We'll be more than happy to do it.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So that's helped us tremendously keep a sane team. So the team, there's no like pampourite. That's how we call them in French. It's like pampourite. So it's like the bad person in the team. Like how do you call that in English?
Well, he called it cancer.
No, the cancer.
That's the American version of what you're trying to explain here.
Yeah, look, it's
the culture helps a lot with that, but it's still today it's a struggle, and I mean the biggest we're going to be is only because of the team and the culture we're going to get. We wouldn't be there without the team, right? It's all about them.
Look, when I hire people and I interview for a position for them to come work for us, first thing I say to them is, are you here for a job or are you here for a paycheck? So if they say I'm here for a paycheck, I don't hire you.
Yeah.
Right? Tell me you're here for a job and a career and what you want to do to help build the company.
Do they ever tell you they're here for a paycheck?
They always say they're there for a paycheck.
Okay.
Right?
So you don't hire anybody?
It's hard. It's been absolutely hard.
It's like it's a trick question. Think about it before you answer.
Right? But it's like if they say, hey, I'm here for the job, then you know what? I'll give you the job. And I'll give you what you want because you really need the job because you have family or whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
But the people who don't care, they're just going to come in. They're going to be on their cell phones. And I don't ban cell phones. I let them have them.
Yeah.
But I know what they're doing in performance. You know exactly what you're getting out.
Totally.
Right?
I mean, listen, once you really understand your business, you understand, look, if you're getting on auto, you're going to bang out X amount.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's your business. You're going to hustle harder. If you're behind, you're going to put in that little bit of extra effort. It's hard to expect that from an employee. But even if you shave off 20, 25%, you know what I mean? From what you know is your max, I think that's a fair target.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about the Stampinator. Let's transition away from DTF. Let's talk more about screen printing. Okay. So let's look at a couple different applications. We're a strong partner of Matsui. We're exclusive in Canada. Really enjoy working them with Jesse. They're actually part of the screen print training class, which we're pretty much sold out of. I think we have a couple tickets left, so I think we're hitting the 120 that we were targeting, which is exciting.
Yeah.
They're like, nice. How are we going to do 120 people in a class? But we'll figure that out.
It'll be a shit show.
No, we got it all dialed in. I know what's going to happen here.
First of all, you take away the alcohol and food, so they all engage. Because as soon as you bring that out, everybody's just congregating and having a conversation.
There's no alcohol Saturday, Sunday. That's on the Friday.
Oh, okay.
Saturday, Sunday, there's no alcohol. There's
hangover.
food. Yeah, exactly. Well, that's why the Saturday is in class, not hands-on. We don't want anyone putting their head in and getting chopped by a pallet, right? So let's talk about, for example, water-based. Is there some benefits, and Sean could probably speak to this, to using a Stampinator when printing water-based, whether it's discharge or HSA or?
Yeah, look, so everybody has
Pallet temps.
pallet temps is key,
It's massive.
right? So are you guys doing water base?
Yeah.
And so give me your rundown on your water base and how
Well,
you're doing it.
So for us, right, we use it to mat down the fibers for a shirt.
Yeah.
Helps a lot for water-based things because we're printing on flat surfaces. So instead of using a
So if
barrier
you're
blocker,
doing discharge and you don't have it matted down, what happens when you do discharge and you go to dry it? And you have the fibers.
in the dryer,
Yeah, you get those little, I always call it like, or I call it pitting, right? Where it's like pitting out on the shirt.
yeah. So we use the mat down like every single time for discharge for anything we do.
Yep.
It helps tremendously, but not the best part is the pallet temps.
Yeah.
So flashes are good, but the Stampinator, the way it disperses heat for water-based inks, your pallets are always at the same temperature. They're always super warm.
Yeah, because you have basically 16 by 20 coming down, right?
Yeah.
And you got that constant heat right on top.
Yeah, and you can play with the temperature too. So if you feel like it's too hot, you can lower it down. If it's not hot enough, you can bring it back up. And the element heats up super quickly.
Yeah.
Like it's fast. So we always start a bit lower and then we raise it up.
Yep.
That's fun. So water-based, that's the biggest trick for us, especially if we're doing like multiple colors, wet on wet with HSA. It's like, remember Virus when they did their WOW thing? So people out there, if you're running HSA inks, pretty much any HSA inks, you can run.
Can you break that down? I mean, not everyone knows what HSA
Okay,
is.
so HSA is high solid acrylics water-based ink. So it's not your discharge, it's not your low solid inks. You always need a white base to hit your top colors. Pretty much like Plastisol with water-based inks.
Yeah.
Virus
done,
came out.
I'll hire you.
Yeah.
Well done.
Virus came out about what, 5 years ago?
No, I think longer than that.
Yeah.
I remember like maybe 11 years ago seeing them in.
Yeah,
It was like Virus came out with like the WOW. It was like
they were in and out pretty quick, at least in North America. I don't know
Anyways,
if they're kicking around.
They had
here
their
still.
WOW. It was called WOWs. It was wet on wet printing.
Yeah.
Any HSA inks, if your palettes are hot enough, you can do wet on wet printing with it. Because as soon as you print it out of your screens and it releases, it's going to be dry to the touch.
Yeah.
So the Stampinator helped us tremendously with that because you don't want to burn your shirts to get your pallets super high, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you raise your flashes so high that your pallets cool down too quickly. So the Stampinator helped keep your pallets warm. And yeah, we can do 6 colors wet on wet.
Yeah, and
with the
I find with water base, with the flashes that we have today, the smart flashes, they're actually reading the Plastisol ink for the temperature gauge. It's hard to read that with water base because it's evaporating and it's all moisture. There's nothing there to reflect off of, right?
Yeah.
So when you're printing, which a lot of people don't realize, when you have the flash that has a sensor, like on a rock press, you want to move that directly over where the Plastisol is. So if you're printing a left chest, you're going to bring that flash where that sensor is over top. I think M&R has the same thing, similar, that you want to do. Get it within that position. So you can't do that with water base. That's where the Stampinator comes in. Just what you said, gives you the perfect temp every single time when you hit it. Yeah.
And talking about water-based and taking it a step further, I'm a big fan of the M&R Digital Squeegee. It's a great platform. We have one client in Canada. I mean, again, it's a harder sell in Canada because of our market size. I have one client in Canada.
It's huge. The market's massive in Canada.
Then why don't you have one yet?
Because it's so massive. There's 35 million people in Canada. There's 38 million people in California.
Population of California, basically. Right? So yeah, I mean, we have one client. He runs a thing all day, every day, loves it. Are there any benefits to pairing a digital squeegee with a stamp? Do you have customers who are using that in conjunction?
I have Sean Kirkpatrick out of Texas. He has a striker. He has 2 Stampinators. when you're printing with digital squeegee, you're hitting anywhere from 1 to 3 screens, depending on what you're doing.
Yeah.
And it mats down, gives him that super smooth surface right before he does the digital. And then after you print your digital, it goes over, it's followed with a clear, or whatever they recommend.
The last
print.
screen, whatever.
For the last screen.
The overcoat or what?
So
Top coat.
Yeah.
he actually stopped at the booth today and was like, man, it has made a difference. He's been running it for about 1.5 years. He's like, it's amazing. So look, I know it works. We know that it works on every press out there. It's just looking for those customers that really want to try it and push it to the limits.
Yeah.
And he's one of those guys. So it's that digital. It's the same thing. It's water-based almost to a certain extent, right?
Yep.
Whatever you want to call it, a hybrid. And you need something that's going to mat that down and keep those fibers down, instead of having that fibrillation coming up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So good for water-based, HSA, digital squeegee.
Yeah, I mean,
transfers.
That's what I'm thinking. So like you could even go like down the road.
You know what I love about with HSAs and you're printing with Stampinator? When you print your underbase and you flash it, it kind of feels chalky.
Mhm.
The Stampinator kind of sets it in
Yeah.
and makes it a lot softer. You don't get that chalky feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you hit the Stampinator first, mat down the fibers of your shirt,
Yep.
it helps to water-based ink, laying your first layer of ink down.
Yeah.
Just matting the fibers of the shirt down without any ink on it.
Yep.
So normally water-based ink would run a barrier base, because the barrier base lays down a lot better than actually your whites.
Okay.
So normally would run a barrier base and then flash, stamp, and then white
Yeah. Nice.
to get beautiful prints.
Yeah,
but
I mean, and that's what
we
I'm looking
eliminated
for.
barrier base.
Yeah,
So it's
and
just
I would love for
Stampinator.
people to share that, right, with all the printers out there,
Yeah.
because it's
We're
going to make
sharing it
them
right now.
Yeah, but
What are we,
more.
a piece of furniture? Jeez. We're trying to share with everybody.
Listen, all printers need to share that information.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of printers, when I got in the business, when I was 19, 20, you're next door to me, you're like, get out.
Seriously.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not working with you. You're my competition.
No.
Now I see it's awesome. Everybody's come together and we work together.
You know,
It's awesome.
Jesse
Yeah,
from
absolutely.
Avid, I did a little interview with him talking about his shop on our Instagram at RB Digital World.
Yeah.
And he used a term which I thought was really cool, is co-opetition, not competition. And he's been a huge ambassador in the Canadian market for really helping people, guiding people. I pretty much have an open door policy with him, and he's just like, hey, just let me know when you're popping in,
Yeah.
and
That's
I don't even
awesome.
think he really asked me who's coming in, but I'm there to show people gauntlets and sportsmen's and the eye image and the Unicoat, the Tajimas. When he started in Tajimas, he bought 2 12s and 6 8s and a single. So he's and now he's got the new Mamaki DTF that's going to be there for the class as well. So he's always done a really good job in mentoring young people and basically helping them get on their feet. I have another client out in PEI, and he literally gave him an entire pallet of ink when he moved out there to get him going. He invited him into his shop. He was kind of trying to get going in the automatic, and he's like, here, man, just like take all of my ink. I had transitioned to the Wilflex Rio, and it was Rutland ink, and I also transitioned that customer away from Rutland and then into Monarch ink.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's something that I'm starting to see a lot more of, the sharing of information, this co-opetition, and it's nice to see that. You're starting to see, even in the screen print contest, Lee Stewart, when we had announced the competition after like a week or two later, and he's like, how many submissions do you have? I'm like, I have 3. He's like, I don't want to compete against 3.
Yeah.
And he's pushing it like, guys, get your shirts out here, right? Whereas some people be like, oh, like we don't want anybody to compete. Like I want a better chance to win, right? Because he's like, man, I'm going to put my blood, sweat, and energy into this. And if I'm, crowned the winner, I want to know that I went against some really, really good shops. And he truly, he's a competitive guy, right? We've talked about that.
Yeah.
Really big into sports. In his past history, and to him, he's like, I want to win, and his mindset is, I was going to win, but he wanted to win against the best.
And it was awesome because you had 25 shirts ended up? 30? 19.
19.
That's
yeah.
still like,
That's a good amount of shirts.
and the prints were phenomenal, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there were some detail, there was some without detail, but they were all good. They were all good.
Yeah, and that was Lee's first crack at any special effects. He hadn't done any at all.
Yeah.
So for what he put out, it was really impressive.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah. He's got a Stampinator.
He does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A little bumpy the first couple weeks until you
Hey,
got him
look,
dialed in.
you know what? So, Lee, I appreciate what you do, right? And he's a critic in this industry, but he only has made me better, right?
Yeah.
And everyone else.
Yeah.
So, if he doesn't like something, Lee will tell you, right? He
Yeah.
will tell everyone. And that's fine.
As bluntly as possible.
Don't take that personally.
Yeah. No, it's not. I mean, he knows
Also
it,
makes
right?
him
I mean, that's why people listen to him.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's
That's his-
bullshit.
Yeah.
It is what it is, black and white. You don't like
But I
it.
want people like that to
Sure.
make my product better.
You
right?
need that.
And it worked.
Yeah.
And right now, Lee, he loves it.
Yeah.
He's all over it.
Yeah.
And
Well, you look
It's
at the
been
quality
fantastic.
he wants to print. Like, it makes sense that he wants that because
Yeah,
it helps
absolutely.
you make
He's
a
super
better,
picky.
yeah, it
Yeah.
makes you make a better shirt.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
to jump on the like co-helping and co-everything, right? What's the advice you would give your younger self starting back with all the knowledge you have today with the print shop?
don't get in the screen print business.
No, but like, no,
Don't
like,
get a screen press business. Don't get partners.
no, but like you have like the screen print shop, Stampinator now. You're growing. You have a lot of connections in the industry. With everything that you know now, if you're going back and you're starting a screen print business or you're starting an apparel business, what's the best advice you could give yourself?
I think what I would have done was set structure in place before I started, right? Because if you don't have the structure, you're not going to grow and you're not going to have that shop environment that you want, right? That's the important part. Have a plan and act on it, right? Don't deviate from the plan, right?
Focus
Move
on it.
forward and focus.
It's easy to deviate.
It is.
Right.
I was 19 when I started printing shirts. My parents were like, "You're crazy. You need to go to school." It's been good to me. But I got three girls. They're in private school, right? My wife's a nurse. She was working part time. It's good. My wife needs to work, right? She's one of them people that if she stayed at
likes
home,
it.
But it's definitely. It was harder back then because we don't have the media that we have today.
Sure.
Instagram, Facebook, TikTok,
Podcast.
podcasts, like it's awesome, right?
Yeah.
And if I can help somebody be better in their company today, I feel good about that, right? And it's awesome, right?
Amen.
It's
Amen.
yeah,
For sure.
absolutely.
I just thought of something as you were chatting. When I first brought this product to market, there was a lot of pushback.
Yeah.
And I think we should do a Stampinator Mythbuster series of questions
Let's do it.
because there's a lot of them out there right now. And it's a tough sell. I mean, I brought some guys that really know the industry, and I need you to be like, hey, show him. So
Yeah.
one thing that people constantly say is there going to be a buildup of plastisol or whatever ink underneath the Stampinator?
Absolutely not. So we're using a Teflon product, and what's great about Teflon, it kind of has that silicone base. So your ink, as long as the right temperature, if you have the temperature set correctly, you're not going to gel or you're not going to undercure it. When you're undercure because the ink's still wet, it wipes right off.
Mm-hmm.
When that ink gels on the back of the Stampinator, you wipe it off. It kind of comes off in rubber chunks, right? Like a piece of paper you're peeling right off. So once you find that sweet spot on the temperature, it's going to work every single time. The one problem and issue that we have is we put on the side of the Stampinator instructions. It tells you for ink, plastisol, 230, low cure, this, 260, 240, whatever it's going to be. No one reads instructions anymore. That's what's important about video and the QR code. Go to the video, go to the QR, check out what we're offering, and the support's there. Take the time to do it. The problem is, including myself, we all get lazy and we just want to open the box up maybe because we're excited or maybe we're just too busy to not look at directions and you put it in, right? But at the end of the day, when you set everything correctly, it all works.
100%.
It comes together, right?
Myth number 2, when you press the underbase, and just so you guys know, we got maybe another
Bleed out.
5 minutes. They're trying to kick us out. A, is it going to bleed out? And B, is it going to kick it out of registration? I got a lot of people saying that all the time. You print the white base, you stamp it, it's somehow going to shift the shirt, and then your top colors are not
So
going to
absolutely not. Again, in the industry, if you're using the right screen mesh and the right for your prints, we're printing on top of the garment. We're not printing into the garment. So when we print, we're using a 230 or 156 underlay. and we're just coming down. We're just basically tapping, right on top of the ink. It's not going to bleed it out, and it's not going to pull the shirt out of registration because we're direct heat. Where is a roller or an iron, that will pull your shirt out.
Mm-hmm.
If you have too much pressure or your pallets are overheated and they start to gel and the adhesive's not holding your shirt, that's when you lose registration. I just had that conversation with Dylan at Shirt Show.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, we run into that from time to time, especially when we're printing sweatshirts. It pulls it out of registration.
Yeah. Question number 3. You could sometimes take, for example, on DTG or even DTF, you take a red, heat-sensitive garment, you heat press, you're going to have a box around that. Is that going to be permanent on it? Are you seeing that at all on the Stampinator when it's on an auto?
No. So when you do have that, and if you're doing any type of heat tapping, it's going to happen if you do that on your manual heat press, right?
Yeah.
What I like about it is after it stamps, the heat, it'll dissipate. When you see the red, it's darker, but when it goes through the dryer, it actually blends, and you won't get that box look within the shirt.
Yeah.
So it's a couple of combinations of, if you hit it, make sure you run it through the dryer. But if you're doing like a polyester, bring the polyester on the temp on the stamp, bring it down to 230. There's no reason to hit polyester at 330 degrees.
Yep.
You're melting the poly at that point, and that's giving you the sheen, the super shiny that you'll get.
All right. Question number 4. This cannot replace a flash. It is impossible. I hear that all the time.
Yeah, it's amazing when they tell me that. It's like, look, if you want to buy this stamp and run a flash with it, go for it, right? But today, again, people are still amazed. 1 second, we're stamping the shirt and it's cured. You cannot do that with a flash. A flash, they say, 2 seconds. There's no way. 3 seconds max is where you're at with a flash, right? The difference between a flash and our stamp, your flash heats all around the pallet, right? It radiates that heat, whereas we're coming directly down, hitting the garment, and it's doing exactly what it was designed to do.
Mm-hmm.
Mat the fibers and cure the ink.
Number 5, which you kind of touched on, can it truly be used as a final cure? I think that's the one that blows people's minds the most.
Absolutely. Look, the final cure, it's not for every print shop, but it's for the smaller shops because it takes time. You want your pallets to heat up. You need to make sure you have the rubber on top of your pallet. So if you're running a rock press, you have to put the rubber on. Action Engineering has the adhesive rubber, works fantastic. You need to hit anywhere from 7 to 12 seconds. Once your pallets get up to temp, you can run it at 7 seconds. It's not a fast process, but it's still close to 400 shirts an hour, right? Pretty impressive. So I would go in when I'm making my videos on Stampinator, and I was taking orders. I had a job we did. It was for this Instagrammer, right? Influencer. It was 25,000 Comfort Color sweatshirts, and it said "Don't jewel, not cool." And we were printing those 1,000 an hour, right? I had 3 of us, and we're loading. Somebody's unloading, and the other guy's boxing. It was awesome. I mean, like, wow, you can't do that.
No.
With a conveyor dryer.
Yeah.
Right?
No,
you can't.
You can't.
And we were working with saving energy at the same time because my dryer was not sucking it up.
Totally.
Now, there's times you need a conveyor with the Stampinator, no question. But there's times you don't. And you need to know when to use it and when not to use it.
Sure. Question number 6. If I load a shirt on a pallet and the seams are on the pallet, is it going to leave, when you kind of heat press the garment, you get that, really flattened fibers?
So it's going to hinder you from having smoothing of your product because we need a flat surface. So what we have is we have a green rubber that goes in between the Teflon. I don't like it. It works. A lot of people love it. Lee loves it. You have to set the stamp at 350 to 360. It has like an aluminum powder in it, so it's a conductive rubber. So we have a Teflon that we have that's anywhere from 40, 60 to 80 mil, and you cut it where the seams are. So in my shop, we like to print lady shirts and kid shirts on the same pallets. Nobody wants to switch pallets out. Yeah. So you stick this in between your Teflon, you keep it at 330, that Teflon still gets hot, and it mats down the fibers, and it cuts right in the seams, and it doesn't leave those impressions. Awesome. It's phenomenal.
Last and final question, I get this all the time. Is Jeff from Stampinator actually a really nice guy, or is that only on camera?
I'm a super nice guy. Look, You know, I am the guy that my wife says to me, "Why are you going and helping them? They never help you."
Yeah.
You know, I help anybody, and that's just me. You know, look, when I have a friend, I have them for a lifetime, and I have friends that I have met over the last 7 years, and they're amazed because I have like 3 best friends that we've been friends for like 35, 40 years, and they're like, holy shit, like it's unbelievable, right?
Yeah.
So for me, I am friends with anyone and everyone. If you treat me right, I'm going to treat you right? You know, so you never know when you need that helping hand from someone.
Totally. That's the
Right.
guy you want to be, right?
That's the guy you want to be, you know, and that's how I raise my kids.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if you're purple, pink, blue, whatever. Love everyone and enjoy their company. Period.
And Jeff won't
Fits me
say
too.
it, but he's probably one of the best guys to set any artwork out there I've ever seen. So if you have a question, not just about stamping,
Yeah.
but like art
hey,
set,
I will help you.
truly the best I've ever seen.
He's the guy.
Yeah.
He's the guy.
Hey, so I have a guy that I've worked with for a number of years, and my buddy Kevin Hinkle, he's worked for some of the top companies. A company called Balls Out, who they were doing $50 million. They made their fame from printing the Chihuahua from Taco Bell, right? And they just grew into licensing. And he'll tell you to this day, he is the best separator and the best printer I've ever worked with. And he tells everyone, you're not printing right because this guy taught me, and I'm trying to tell you how. So he works for this license company as ownership, and he does really well for himself. But it's always nice to hear that.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, we're about to get kicked out of here. That's
are.
why I was going like this not too long ago. So, Jeff, thank you very much for your time.
Stampman is,
I'm the Stampman now. This is
You
coming
got it.
home with me.
Thanks for doing this,
If
Jeff.
it was
Thanks,
coming
man.
home with
Thanks for
me,
having me.
if it was coming home with me, I'd be able to give it back to Jeff. Jeff's going to be flying in to Canada for the Avid X RB Digital class, February 2nd to February 4th. We have all the industry, a lot of the industry experts. We got Sati, Monarch, Matsui, Nortec, M&R,
Stampinator.
If you haven't had an opportunity yet and you're in Canada, we do have a couple tickets left. I don't know if there will be by the time this airs. Get on it as quick as you can. It's going to be an amazing event, lots of fun, great for networking, make a lot of friends, lots of good food, and it's something that I think the industry in Canada needs, and we're excited
it'll be
to
awesome.
provide it. So thanks again for your time.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
All the
Thank
best.
you.
Yep.
Thanks, bud.
Thank you. We're out of here,
Good one,
okay? We're leaving.
That's a wrap.